Hello and welcome to Rosie's Preserving School Pressure Canning. And I've covered the table with stuff again, as you can see, but we're making a tikka masala sauce today, which I absolutely love. I don't absolutely love making it. If I've got to do it from scratch each time we fancy having tikka masala. So I thought it's a good idea to get some jars of at least the sauce. Then you've only got, if you're having chicken or whatever you're having with it, vegetables, you've only got that bit to do and the rice to cook. So because the sauce really is the most sort of fiddly bit. There's so many ingredients. So that's why you'll see all sorts of recipes for the sauce with chicken in it. Now, I don't put the chicken in, I'm just doing the sauce on its own. We've got jars of plain chicken that we've already learned how to process. And so what I'm going to do in the sort of venting time when the canners, we're waiting for the canner to vent, is to show you how to marinate the chicken so that you can then go on and cook that, heat up the sauce, cook your rice, and it's all done virtually in the time it would take you to go and buy one from the takeaway. So the recipe download has all of the spices you'll need and, well, everything you'll need. The recipe's got all the ingredients, but I'm not going to go through the spices individually now. I'll do that as I put them in. I'm just finishing prepping my onion, which I've chopped. I mean, it is sort of smaller than I'd normally chop it, but it's not super fine. I'm not too worried about whether I've got lumpy bits of onion in my sauce. I'm not trying to make a smooth, sauce that hasn't got any lumps. It's all in there, so what size it is doesn't matter to me. If you do want it super fine, then as the recipe says, mince it, but that involves more kit to wash up really in my head, so I don't do that unless I've absolutely got to. So just make sure there are no really big bits, and it will soften, and once it's processed that will soften it again, and I'll hardly notice it in there. Okay, so that's 2 onions, medium onions, just chopped. What I am going to chop up small is the ginger. Now, I've been reading a lot recently about not peeling things. And so I'm not going to peel the ginger, but I have peeled the garlic. A lot of people take the ends off of garlic and leave the papery skin on it if they're chopping it, but I haven't quite pushed myself that far so far. I've got my electric chopper here, so I've got to save some garlic for the marinade for the chicken. I'm going to put the rest in my electric food chopper. This does with a different hopper on it. It does spices as well and is a brilliant piece of kit. Very efficient. So a bit of noise. Give it a poke. That all looks, one bit of garlic there, not quite done. Got stuck under the blade, something. Give it one more go. And that will be enough. Let's get to the next bit. Right. Okay, so that's that. I'll scrape that out of there. And you can see there, it's chopped it all together really finely, really quickly. No bits of ginger skin that I can perceive. What I'm going to do is put my oil in the pan. Now I'm using coconut oil today, just to give a bit of a different flavour. And that's solid when it's at room temperature, providing your room is sort of coolish. And it melts kind of immediately on touching your skin. So I always buy sort of a bucket of coconut oil. Generally speaking, I buy a big 5-kilo bucket because I make a lot of hand creams and things like that, and I use it in kind of holistic products of salves and all that kind of thing. So I do use it perhaps more for that than cooking, but it's great for cooking as well. And now I've got to get it out of the tub because it is solid. Once you get it started, it's not too bad. And you want about 4 tablespoonfuls. You can't be exact with it. And of course, it's non-dairy as well, so that's great for pressure canning. You don't want to introduce too much dairy into the pressure canning world. We'll count that as 2 because the first one was quite big. 3 and a bit extra, and that's 4. Put it off the spoon. Right, and I will turn that on and have it too high. We can get to the, so I'll put it on 4. So that is done. I'll gradually make some space as we go through. Need to let that melt a bit, and then I can put the garlic and the ginger and the onions in to gently cook. You don't want them frying madly. You don't want them to go brown or for the garlic to burn, which it does as soon as you turn your back. So you want it on a lowish heat. Right, that's all that out. So that's the worst bit of chopping things in any piece of machinery, is getting it back out again, I find. So it's just a nuisance. So it's starting to melt. And let's put that back on again. I meant to do the coriander first because I thought I had some ground coriander here, but I haven't. So I'm going to try it in here. I'm not sure it will work because it's not the spice bit, it's the chopping bit. Anyway, I'll see. I want the equivalent of 4 dry teaspoonfuls. Let's try that. See what happens. What's the worst, hey? Oh, I'll put that in the top, so I can't at the moment. Just get some of that melted, then it can go in. Now, I think it's worth saying, I think the British sort of thought up chicken tikka masala. I don't think it's a traditional Indian thing, although it's obtainable all over the world now. But I think if you don't want to eat meat, it's perfectly feasible to do some big vegetables, things like quartered fennel and big chunks of courgette, onion and that kind of thing, maybe some carrots or whatever your vegetable thing is to just maybe blanch them very, very quickly and then put them in the roasting tin and put the marinade on that I'm going to put on the chicken, and you'll get the same effect. Basically, for the finished dish, you need a sort of semi-charred looking roasted item, shall I say, the chicken or the veg, or you could do chicken and veg if you wanted to extend it for, you know, a big family or something. But you need it to be roasted in the oven so that it gets a bit of color on it with the marinade and everything. Then you put that on the rice and pour the tikka sauce over it. So let's get these onions in because the coconut oil's nearly melted. It smells wonderful, the coconut oil, because you get all the sort of coconut flavour without sort of picking bits of coconut out of your teeth for the rest of the day. So that's another reason I like to use it. Another layer of flavour. So I stir that round and put in my garlic and ginger. Get that out of the lid. Good thing about this little machine is it all goes in the dishwasher except for the motor, obviously, but you can easily get it cleaned up. You know, you haven't got to sort of try and get all the bits out of the blades and everything. Now I'm just going to try and get these coriander seeds ground if I can. I don't know what's going to happen. What's happened is they've ground. You can see there. It's always good to grind your spices fresh as well because they've just got so much more flavour. So that's good. We don't have to leave out the coriander because I've forgotten something. Oh dear. So where can I put everything? I'll put that there for a moment because I'm going to need it again. So I just need to get this. Let me look at the order. Yeah. So cook but don't brown. So I need to find myself a little dish. Let me just go and grab one from the kitchen. Then I'm going to mix all of the spices together before we put them in. So let's go down the list. There's ground cumin, which is here, and that is 4 teaspoonfuls. Which immediately gives it the traditional sort of fragrancy. 4 teaspoons of turmeric, brown turmeric, this lovely yellow one. Be very careful not to get it on your clothes because it will stain. Very good for you, as well as being a very useful culinary spice. 2, 3, 4. Coriander, which I've just done, a clean teaspoon. 1, 2, 3, 4. Paprika, 4. It's there. Let's just give this a stir. Turn it down a bit. So paprika for 1, 2, 3, 4. Chili. Now it all seems quite a lot, 4 teaspoons of everything, but it's quite a lot of sauce. So put the rest of that in because there's only just enough, I think. That's it. Garam masala is 4. Right, so we just need to mix those together so you don't get a great big sort of patch of it when it hits the pan and sort of cooks onto the onions and so on. It will be sort of evenly blended, more so than if you just sort of threw them in as you went. That's the spices. Throw those in, let them cook for about a minute or 2, just to start releasing their flavors. Two teaspoonfuls of tomato puree. Right, so now we're down to the passata, and I've got 2-litre jars here I'm going to put in. It says 1600 grams, 2.5 pints. That's 1600 millilitres, but I'm just going to put the 2 jars in. And 600 ml of water, which I've got. So by the time I've got this open, time to go. It's my opener. I'm just going to turn my canner on, start heating up. This is passata 1922, not 1922, 2022 vintage. God, it'd be a miracle if it's 1992. So I'm going to use that. I just scrape off the lid. That'll be fine, Jane. Absolutely fine to use smoked paprika. That will enhance the tandoori flavour eventually. So, in with the passata. I made last year's tomatoes. I must say I've been clearing the greenhouses and I've picked all of my Roma tomatoes, and they're the sort that you get in tins for, you know, whole. And I've been bottling those and water bathing them, and they're absolutely fabulous. So I should be growing those again next year. I haven't done so much passata this year. So as you can see, I'm still using it up. I don't think I ate a fresh tomato last year. I was so excited with sort of doing all the passata. I usually do it every year, but we had such a good crop and I was so busy doing that, I forgot to actually eat them. So yeah, let's get that all incorporated. And you can see if you're trying to marinate chicken and sort out cooking rice and everything, this is a bit of a workup to make the sauce as well from scratch. So Right, let's clear the decks a bit. I'll take these away. We've got the water to put in yet. And some salt. Water, where's that? Here. 600 ml of water going in. And salt is 2 tablespoonfuls. Haven't got any stock this time, so I'm putting the salt in. Usually I use my stock that is salt based with vegetables, so I don't usually add sauce to processed pressure can food. I tend to season it afterwards if I need it, but there's no salt in any of the liquids today. So just stir to dissolve that. Bring the heat up again. You need to bring it back to the boil. Right. Let's clear up so I can get the jars organised. And go out. And that. Certainly smells very authentic. So I've got my vinegar here ready for doing the rims. There's my kitchen roll, here it is. So I'm doing 7 jars. And you can adjust the recipe if you want to do a whole canner full, you know, just or you want to do bigger jars, then you can scale it up, do double the amount or something like that, so that you get what you need. And I'll need 5 seals because I've got 2 on the new couple of jars I've got there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Good. Temperature's coming up. Funnel and my ladle and my extra lids. So let's just get this heat up and then you can start filling. Let me get, I can go in there now. soon as it's come up to the boil. We'll cook it for another 2 or 3 minutes and then be good to go. It will be so good to have this on the shelf. I don't know if you saw my Instagram on Friday. We were not Friday, Thursday. We were so late home and I hadn't really got supper organised, and it was just a case of grabbing the jars off the shelf and assembling them. So I decided to video it and put it out, because that's real life. That's that's what happens, and that's why I do this, because it is so brilliant to just be able to come home and know that you've got good food, nutritious food there, just ready to heat up and go. So it was a sort of deconstructed cottage pie done in layers of the jarred potatoes that we'd done just a few weeks ago, the bolognese mix, and a bit of frozen spinach I found from last year in the freezer, and grated cheese, all layered up and then baked while we got sorted out ready to eat it. And it was ready, 20 minutes it was done, and we were able to relax and eat it, which is what it's all about, really, for me anyway. I mean, there's lots of other reasons to pressure can, but that's my main one. Not always to be grabbing quick snacky things that don't really fill the hunger gap after a long day packing jars in a warehouse, doing orders and stuff. Now, Chev's put the pan cam on there, and it looks a very sort of greeny on there. I can assure you my sauce is more the color of the sauce on the recipe. It's sort of bright orange and looks really good. That doesn't look quite so promising, more like a pea soup or something. But no, it's typically tikka orange. That ought to be a paint color, didn't it? Tikka orange. But there we are. We've got it nicely heated through. Lots of steam. The other thing we've had recently that was really, really good, we had an all-day breakfast on, I don't know whether it was a weekend or a work evening, but we did some bacon in the air fryer, and I opened a jar of the sausage meat, like patties we made. We did some meatball ones and we did some flat ones, and I opened a jar of those and cooked them on the hob, and we had eggs with it and some of the tomatoes out of the new jars of Roma tomatoes, and it was really nice, and the sausage was fantastic. I put the whole lot in the pan because it produces its sort of own kind of gravy, so I put the whole lot in, and by the time it was cooked, it was just like 2 flat cakes of sausage meat, and really pleasant and delicious. So okay, that's good to go. Turn the heat off that pan and lift it down to the fill, because it's too sort of liquid to stretch and do it. I must say, it smells amazing. So I'm put that in there in a minute. I'll get it out of your way so you can see, and get the jars on here. Got my funnel to minimize mess. It's always easier not to make the mess than to have to clear it up when you've done it. I mean, sometimes things happen. I'm very clumsy at catching the ladle or my hand on the edge of the funnel, and then it flies up in the air and everything goes everywhere, but I'll try not to do that today. So you're filling to the fill line 3 centimeters below the top, or about 1 inch, and I don't think you'll need to debubble as it's very liquid. Not sure how many jars I'm going to make, but it'll make what it'll make. I was sort of guesstimating it from adding up the ingredients. as to what I would need. So there's one. But if it's five, it's five. I don't really mind. I can make another batch another day. The good thing about this is if you've got a good store cupboard of spices, you don't need that much else. You know, most people have got onions around, or you might have some frozen onions, or, you know, but you can sort of make it from what you've already got. So if the mood takes you, this is taking 5 ladlefuls per jar, so I think I might get 6 jars from it, just about. I'm guessing if you wanted it really, really smooth, you could stick blend it as well before you fill the jars. But so I'm not that fast really myself. Break down the sides. It's surprising. I learned that from jam making and chutney making over the years. It's a hell of a lot that sticks to the side of the pan. I mean, you could usually squeeze out another tiny jar from it, or several tiny jars for doing sort of sampling and that kind of thing if you're selling what you're making. So don't just think, oh, that'll be all right. I'll go back to my spatula and get the last bit out, and it will just finish that jar off. In there. Makes for easier washing up as well if you get most of it off the pan here and put it in the jar rather than into the water. Right, that. Right, that one hasn't got quite as much in, but that one I put too much in. So what I'm going to do is see if I can get out a couple of spoonfuls without dripping it all over the rim of the jar and even them up. That's better. So that's 6 jars from that, which is good because I won't have to struggle and get that central jar out of the canner at the end, which I'm always having to do. Right, let's do the rims. So wipe the rims of the jar with vinegar to make sure they're grease free before you put the seal on, and then you'll stand much less chance of having a seal failure, which is obviously is something that you need to avoid if possible. On there. And that one. And that one. Oh, one over here. Clean piece of towel. Right. And the seals can go on. And the lids. Into the canner. I swear I get shorter every week. Just further to reach and put them in. Normally I would debubble, but as I say, it was entirely liquid, so there's not a lot of point. It's only really thicker things and lumpy things that you need to be extra careful so you don't get siphoning and so on. Right, and lastly, put in the remains of your vinegar so you don't get white lime scale sticking to the outside of your jars, because it's a very difficult job getting it back up again. So now we need the lid. Close the canner. Definitely down. And we'll leave that to heat up. I've got my jiggler weight there, my timer already. So I'm going to take 5 minutes to clear up, and then I'm going to come back and show you what I do with the chicken to marinate it, or if you want to do vegetables instead. Okay, I'll see you in a few minutes. Welcome back. Hi, welcome back. My timer is about to go off. The can has been venting very vigorously. You can see the steam there, and it's just coming up to the 10 minutes. So there we go. So I'll pop on the weight, and then we can wait for it to come up to pressure. I'm going to cover my hand because every time I do this, I burn myself. So I'm going to do it like this and show it his boss. I've got a digital one at home I use for sort of small batch canning, and it's the same with that. It's quite vicious, so I've got to remember to use a cloth. And the canner has locked, so that's all okay. So we're just going to wait for it to come up to pressure. And while we wait for that, I'm just going to show you what I'm going to do with our chicken dish. And we're going to have this tomorrow for supper. So you marinate it for 24 hours in the fridge if you've got time. If you haven't, just do it for as long as you've got, basically. It will still taste of something, but it will be better if you've marinated it for longer. So what I'm going to do is put my scale pan on, and I've already chopped some garlic and ginger. You'll see on the recipe sheet, after the main recipe down there, there's the marinade for chicken recipe. So you're going to need, I'm going to put in all the sort of dry things first, actually. So I've got my mincer here with its chopped garlic and onion as before. I'm going to do it in my big jug. So I'm going to put that in. So I've done what I did before. Just mince them up together, garlic and ginger. You don't need ground coriander, do we now? So I can put that in there, put that over there. Right, minced garlic, ginger, 2 teaspoonfuls of salt. Two teaspoons of ground cumin. Let's fill this up again, it's nearly empty. 2 of those. Then include garam masala, 2 teaspoonfuls. And 2 teaspoonfuls of paprika or paprika, whichever way you prefer to pronounce it. I'm going to give those a mix just to get the, as before, to sort of even things out a bit. So the chicken doesn't get all of one thing and none of the other. And then we need 2 tablespoonfuls of lemon juice. My lemon here, my squeezer. On the pressure, about halfway. And that's, I would say, roughly 2 tablespoonfuls. So that's the juice of half a lemon. And I'm going to put in all this sort of flesh of the lemon because it hasn't got any pips in it, so why waste it? That, give that a mix. And then the last thing we need is some plain yogurt, which will make the sort of marinade base. And it's 125 grams or about 4 ounces, fluid ounces of yogurt. So, see, I'm going to zero my scales. My spoon is in the kitchen, of course. Sorry about that. So 125 grams. I don't tip it because it will just go everywhere. I mean, it's not critical that you have 125. It's about 3 tablespoonfuls. and then mix that. Done with those. You can see I'm mixing it together and it's a nice sort of pale golden colour. Okay, chicken. This is the chicken that we pressure canned. Plain chicken, just plain chicken, thighs and breast chopped up, no liquid, no seasoning, no nothing. It shrinks down and it makes its own juice and some fat as well. So I'm going to put all of that. And this is why I like to do it plain, because you can then decide which way you're going to go with it. It's all well and good to have some meals in the jar, but you are sort of stuck with what else is with them. So Jane's hiding the garlic potatoes. What does that mean?
This means I'm hiding them from the family because they've all discovered how easy.
Oh, right, I see. Yes.
I had to do another whole batch and now I'm hiding them.
That's the cut
Like
up
the
ones.
garlicky cube potatoes that we just basted in the butter.
Sorry?
When we did the potatoes and we just did them with, I did mine in like garlicky, herby butter.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're just so good with all sorts.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what else we had with our all-day breakfast, a jar of those. You can just empty it into the pan and, you know, it's great. So all of this is going in, all this chicken and its juice and its bit of fat. It's only a sort of small bit, but fat is flavour and it will help in the cooking of this, because this is going to be an oven roasted element and you don't want to be adding anything else to it apart from the marinade. So I'll put the whole lot. And you see, it doesn't look very much in that jar, but once it's out and spread out, there's enough there for at least one person. I would say that 2 of these jars would do for 3 people, providing they haven't got huge appetites. As I say, that's what it looks like in the jar and sideways, which looks nothing. And then you tip it out. And just tease it apart. You don't want to break up the lumps too much. It will sort of get over. There we are. Right, I'm up to pressure, so I'm going to turn the canner down. The jiggler will make a noise for a minute or two till it calms down. And I'm going to put my timer on, and it's just 30 minutes for this. Gosh, I'll hardly have time for a cup of tea, will I? And 6:30, there we go, that's on. So the next thing to do is just to pour the marinade over. Well, if you've got a whole jar of liquid, well, perhaps best to drain it off a bit and use it as stock. But if you've only got, you know, a small amount like me, I'm just going to leave it all in there and let it cook off in the oven. All right, so now I'm just going to sort of gently incorporate all of that. And then I will cover it and leave it in the fridge overnight. And for supper, I will spread that in a lined roasting tin. Now, if you've got a nice sort of non-stick one, you'll probably get away with it, but this is going to cook quite hot and the marinade does kind of burn onto the tin a bit if you're not careful, and it's, you know, it's just a pain having to get it off. So if you line the tin with something, baking parchment, or you know, even an air fryer liner or something like that, just to, so it's not so difficult washing it up. And then you pour the whole, you take the chicken with the marinade stuck on it, lay it in a single layer, and cook it on quite a high temperature for about 15 to 20 minutes while you heat up your tikka sauce and you cook your rice. And then you can serve it with naan bread, or if you want to, or whatever else you like with it. If you're going to cook the chicken from raw, if you're not using pressure can chicken, I just cook it for a little bit longer. You know, test it with a thermometer, make sure it's up to above 73 degrees and all the way through. But it needs a little bit of sort of charring on it just to give it that authentic flavour. So it's as easy as that. You can flip open your jars and get your glass of wine ready, and you'll be ready to go. Okay, so this is going to process for 30 minutes. So we'll come back at the end when the canner's opening and have a look. I mean, it won't be a lot to see, but we'll we just got time for a cup of tea, and we'll finish off in half an hour or so. Okay, thank you. Good, so the canner is finished. It's depressurized, it stopped hissing and bubbling and everything. So I'm going to take the weight off. There it goes, and then open the canner, and as you know, hold the lid away from your face, don't open it towards you, and then you won't get a unnecessary steam bath. And just let it all sort of come to a bit. And then I've got my poor old towel on the table here, but it's doing a sterling job. It thought it was at the end of its life, but there we are. Now, this isn't going to be very dramatic because the sauce won't look very much different out of the canner as to when it went in. But anyway, it's all there, ready for when we need it. And if you do use it, and especially if you use it with something other than chicken, send us some pictures. I'd be really interested to see what you do with it and how it turns out for you. And we can put it on our pages and so on. It just gives inspiration to others. There was one there, the lid's come off. So I don't know where that is, so I don't know whether it's sealed or not. So first, I'll take the lid out. I can't have done it up totally. No, the seal hasn't sealed. Well, that's our one for supper tomorrow. That's never happened before. I'll put the lid back on just so I don't knock it and spill it. And then I'll let it cool down, and I'll have that one. I'll put it separate and I'll know which one it is for using first. Because even if it sealed down now, it wouldn't really be safe because the vacuum's gone. But I want one for tomorrow, so that's fine. Okay, so I'll see you in it's more than a couple of weeks, I think, because October's a long month. 4th of November, yeah. So it'll be a couple of weeks break, and then we're back with squashes and pumpkins. Halloween will be over. All the pumpkins will be looking for a new home, so we'll process some and make some soup or something, and that's a really good thing to do with them. I hate all the waste of pumpkins every year. You know, I wish people sort of looked ahead, and you know, the number that are grown just to be wasted is just mind-boggling. So let's make a little dent in that, and I'll see you in 3 weeks then. Thank you.